Hello to all of you beautiful nerds, and I am back. Yes, I know, it's been 2 years since Ranger Stop and Pop in Atlanta. I'm sorry if we did not go and do any more recordings. Our lives were crazy the past 2 years, as in from moving to moving, and then hurricanes. Oh boy. I better do a different video about that. But today, I'm actually doing a very special makeup storytime video talking about scamming publishers. I'm not talking about the publishing house, but I'm talking about actual publishers that publish books. And I had a few come after me because I am an author myself, and I know what it's like to have a scammer come after you. I did go through one scam back in 2015 thinking that I was going to be working for somebody, but it ended up being a scammer coming after me from overseas. But this one has to deal with writing. So I'm also going to be doing my makeup. The makeup that I'm using is makeup that I had or previously purchased recently. Don't worry, nobody's sponsoring me for this video. I already bought these things either at Walgreens or Target or any other place. I basically did not have anybody send me any of these things. So, letting you know. So, today's story kind of started off back in 2021. And this was when I had to leave my master's program at University Massachusetts Boston. Long story short about that, they said my grades were suffering, so I had to leave back in 2021. So, yep, it was devastating. I was happy that I was back in school at the time. I didn't know that that some of the stuff I was doing was not making me pass during the second semester. I did pass the first, even though they said, oh, you were supposed to get a B+, but apparently, I guess due to COVID, you were able to stay for spring. And I'm like, getting a B is not too bad, you know. But anyways, so back to the idea at hand. So a few weeks before I had to leave UMass Boston, I ended up getting a call from Delaware. And apparently it was from a guy who was at a publishing place called Strand Press. I'm doing my brows with my tried and true brow products from NYX. I'm doing the brow pomade in chocolates, the Taman Frame, by the way. But anyways, the guy was calling me from Strand Press, and they said they read the first book in my Backwards Fairy Tale series, which I didn't get much traction in sales for ebooks at the time. And they said it was like someone read it, and they said it was really good. They enjoyed it. Oh man, here's my baby wipe. And they said it was really good, and they wanted to help publish me and be in a paperback. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, never thought this would happen to me, and now I'm doing the Control Freak. That I never thought that this would happen to me, that someone would come out of nowhere to try to help me get my book a boost. So he didn't call me for a few days. And I was worried that, did I say something wrong? I even called Stratton Press. The weird thing is, Stratton Press had something where you had to put in a key code to reach your agent. And I pretty much kind of felt like a little red flag going up. But then when I got in contact with someone, they said, don't worry, he's a little bit busy, blah, blah, blah. He'll call you back when he's able to. So he did call me back when I was about to leave for the day from work. And this was when we were getting back to the routine of getting be back face to face a little bit more, because COVID, or shall I say, the virus was, you know what, I don't get monetized here, so I'm just gonna say it outright, because COVID is starting to not be in the news as much, because not many people were getting it as much. So
now, Megyn Kelly, good. Suffer. DailyMail.co.uk/news/article-1. Attachment.
Sorry about that. I can't go over there at the moment. I have that just in case if I need to use a way around tag, which I tend to have on my makeup products to tell me what's what. So, anyways, so we started talking. He started asking me questions about what my book was about, what Loves Found in Cinders was about. I'm like thinking, okay, wasn't I told that they read the book? And he was asking me questions, and also even asked if I was writing a sequel. And I'm like, I was not thinking about the sequel because my books haven't sold as much, which is true. My books haven't really sold that much during that time because I was busy with work, and at the time when I was in school, but I was already out of UMass at that point. So I said, not really. And he's like, why not write the sequel? I'm like, okay, fine, I'll write the sequel. And so I started working on it a little bit. I kind of thought about what I want the story to be, and I decided to do, since my series is supposed to be modern twists on classic fairy tales. And the first one, if you could tell, it is basically Cinderella. What I was using was the MAC Pro Long paint pot in Art Therapy, which makes a pretty good eye primer, by the way. You never thought Soft Peach would be a good primer to use? I would say try it out. But anyways, first one is Cinderella. Second one, Rose Thorns of Love, which I'm going to touch upon later, is basically Beauty and the Beast. And so for a few days, he was asking me different questions, and I got a few questions that were a little off topic. One of them was like, do you believe in the paranormal? I'm like, okay. I answered it as, I believe it exists, but I was not expecting that as a question towards my books. And I'm like thinking, okay, what is this guy getting at? Another question was about how do I get around if you're visually impaired? Because somehow he found out that I was visually impaired. I'm going to be using the Tartelette Juicy palette on the bottom row to make it a little bit easier for this video. And I'm like, I told him I do use sighted guides most of the time, which is true. And I do use my cane. I have pretty good mobility skills. Because of what about events? You know, events and signings. Which I am not there pretty much. Even though I think you could set one up, but I don't know how to. But anyways. So things were getting along. And also, one red flag you should also know about is some of these people can be pushy, very pushy. And they kind of remind me of MLMs a little bit because of how they interact. And after having those questions, that kind of threw me off. And I had a bit of a weird feeling about Stratton Press. And they were kind of asking, did you finish your book, your sequel, or when will you finish it? I'm like, I just started a few days ago on Rose Thorns of Love, and he was asking me what that one is going to be about. I'm like, it's supposed to be Beauty and the Beast, even though I did change it a couple of times, because there are times when I don't like how my book is coming out, so I restart the book from the beginning, like delete it completely and go from there. So I'm like, why is this guy asking me why, if my second book is finished, if I haven't even worked on it as much? So things have continued from there. And then one day, this was when when our buddy Toby, this was before he moved in with us, and yeah, he's living with us, has been for a year, and this was before he moved in, and it was one of the days that I got called by Stratton. And the interesting part about it, that day the questions became a little bit more political. Like, for instance, they were asking me if I was Republican or Democrat, which threw me off. One interesting part was that the guy did not want to say George Floyd's name at all. I'm like, wait a minute. How can you not know this guy's name? I kept on repeating the name when I was talking to him. He was like, what was that guy's name? I was like, George Floyd? What was it? George Floyd? He's like, oh, it is George Floyd. I'm like, so I talked my opinions. And when I came out, I told Toby what was going on, and then he asked me the question that got me to research. What does politics have to do with your books? Because your books are supposed to be fantasy, aren't they? I'm like, yeah, you're right. And that got me to wanting to research. And I did research, and I found their Better Business Bureau page. Even though some people say don't trust the Better Business Bureau, but they did save me from this publisher and the next one I'm going to be talking about. And I found out that they had so many complaints against them. Like, for instance, some guy wanted his 1900, as in 1,900 bucks back. And it took forever to get their refund. I'm like, wait a minute. Publishing usually doesn't cost that much. Because I found out my publisher was starting up a few publishing services to make it easier to have your paperback, because back when I started with them, they were like, you gotta sell these many copies in order to have your book as a paperback. And then they made it more easier to have a paperback where you could choose either ebook or paperback, or do a subscription version of either paperback or ebook, or you could do both. And I remembered I redid some of the story for Love Found in Cinders to make it better for the paperback. And this is when I found out that someone who got scammed by this company ended up having their paperback pulled because the formatting was not that great. I also remembered buying one of the books from Strand Press for like $1. And when I was reading it on my Kindle app, it felt like VoiceOver could not breathe at all. Like they couldn't take a breath. And I was like, whoa. So, yeah. I tried reading the book. I did not enjoy it because it was like, reading so fast. And I'm like, did they edit this ebook to make it so that any screen reading would be able to read it easily? And I knew that the red flags were completely up. And when the guy tried calling me, I told him, sorry, I am going to back out. I am not going to work with you guys at all. And just hung up. I thought it was going to just end right there, but I was wrong, because one thing you hardly see from me is that I am scary when I'm angry. And I pretty much spooked a coworker and a driver, because since I use paratransit in town to get to work and come home from work. But again, I can be a scary little witch, so to speak, if you piss me off. And apparently one day in November, I think it was October, or I think it was September, I was coming home from work, and my coworker was on the same bus with me, and I get a call while I was listening to music, because usually music not only calms me down, but it keeps me focused from not falling for any motion sickness. It keeps my head up in a way, keeps my head still in a way. So that day I get a call, and it was a lady with a high-pitched voice. It almost reminded me of a former coworker I had that had a high-pitched voice as well, because sometimes I could tell who's who by their voices. And I tried asking them where are they from. They said they were a publisher. And I asked where are you from? This basically gave off MLM vibes, because if you got that hey hun greeting, they won't tell you where they're from. It took them until they said, we're a publisher from Delaware. I'm like, wait a minute, you're from Shrine Press, are you? And she asked, how do you know? And I told her, months ago, I had someone from your company trying to scam me to work with them, and I am not falling for your scams. Goodbye. And I hung up. My coworker asked me, are you okay? I'm like, yes, I almost got scammed by this publisher. And I went back to happy. That makes me scary. When I'm angry, I'm angry. But when I see something that makes me happy, like a kitty, I go back to happiness. And I'm like, So, yeah. So I scared the crap out of them. And I did leave a nice little message with Shrine Press saying, do not call me again. I'm keeping my books with my publisher that I've been working with for a few years. And I completely blocked their number. And I haven't even heard from them since. And the good thing is, I got around, as a nice little middle finger to Shrine Press, I decided to publish Love Found in Cinders as a paperback. And I was happy that it was a paperback. But my story does not end there. Oh no, viewer. It doesn't end there. I bet you're wondering, how so? Well, how it doesn't end is because I did end up finding out about another publishing company, but they're from New Jersey, and they are known as Writers Branding. And this one, my lovelies, is a publisher that won't quit. And this comes up with another red flag, too. But, of course, I remembered when looking into Shrine Press, they mentioned that some of these companies, they do say where they are located in the United States at first, but they mostly originated in more of South Asia. But I do notice how some of these people do have a bit of an accent to when they talk. And they usually say, beware the ones, but where when they say they're from a particular state. But one interesting fact, if you go on Shrine Press's Facebook profile, they say they're from the Philippines, not Delaware. And I was glad to know about that, because I am not being racist in any way, but I noticed that they did have a bit of an accent to their voice. And this one in particular had a bit of a slightly thick accent. Where is my... Sorry, I'm looking for my CoverGirl lash primer, because I can't wear almost any mascara except the Mini Max Stacks mascara. Somehow my eyes likes that mascara. But I wonder what happened to that. Oh, found it because it has a way around tag. Oh, thank goodness. But of course, I wear a lash primer, and I did curl my lashes. Very impressive by a blind person. An interesting, funny story when I got a new lash curler at Ulta when this was before Ranger Stop and Pop. My dad looked at the curler and he's like, "Do you know how to use this thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know how to." And he looks at me and then looks back at it, looks at me, and he's like, "Okay." But anyways, back to the story at hand. And I did notice this woman had a slightly thicker accent when she said she's from a publisher known as Writers Branding, located in New Jersey. They called, but as I was teaching, and this was before lunch as well. And I was like, okay. And they said, no wait. This happened like right a month later. Actually, this happened in November before we were supposed to go to Orlando for Ranger Stop. And they called me after I got home from work. And they told me that they wanted to work with me on Love Found in Cinders. They said my book was really good. And I asked them, did you read my book? Because after Stratton Press asking me all the different questions about my book, I had to ask them the question. I am using the telescopic lift, people. Yes, I know the controversy behind Lashgate behind it, but be glad I don't put on falsies. But as I was saying, they said they only read the synopsis. I'm like, sorry, I'm not going to work with you. Goodbye. And I knew they didn't read my book. And Toby, since he was living with us by this point, asked what happened. I told him what was going on. And I also told RJ because he was the one who picked me up. And he said, you should give them a chance. But I'm like, I know they're a scam, hun. And I did look them up. And people did get scammed by these people. And then a month later, that's when I got a call from them again. And same woman, well, different woman, but she was the one with the accent. The first one, not so much. I actually like this mascara, by the way, people. And like I said in the beginning of the video, I am not being sponsored by anybody like L'Oreal or Tarte. But as I was saying, so I told her I read some reviews online because I found their BBB page as well. And she was asking, what are these reviews? One thing, especially for MLMs, they expect you to be completely dumb and not check the internet for any reviews. And one thing about me, after being very skeptical about being scammed, is research online. And when I saw that people were going to be scammed, that were being scammed by Writers Branding, I told them, I don't trust you because I know you're a scam. And they're like, no, we're not. And besides, the people that you're working with, like Switch Press, which is my publisher, They said they're a failing publisher. I'm like, oh my god, they're gaslighting me. So I basically hung up on her and I decided to email my publisher about it, and they were like, wait, they said we were failing. No, we're not. How did they contact you? So I told them what was going on, and they're like, I think your number is somewhere in the dark web. Just be careful and just watch your back. And apparently, according to them, I'm the only person who they work with that had this happen, especially with the next scammer. But Writers Branding is someone that would not give up, because they also tried calling me again more recently, and I had to yell at them because I was kind of sick of it. I think they were trying to call me for Rose Thorns of Love, which that was my newest one. And after they said LightSwitch was a failing publisher, I compared the BBB pages, and I saw that Writers Branding had a D, and their rating is terrible. Like, I think it was a 2-star out of 5. Well, my publisher had an A, a complete A. And they've been around a lot longer, while Writers Branding only was around for 2 years by this point. That's another thing. Like, check their grading. Their grading will tell you, hey, this is what's up with this publisher. Even though, yeah, they're not BBB accredited, but you have to kind of still read the reviews, how people enjoy working with them and everything. And I commented on one of their posts saying, I don't want you guys to ever contact me again. Apparently, they thought they saw potential in me when they replied back to my comment. No, I didn't do it on Facebook. I did it on BBB, by the way. He said, okay, fine, we'll take your number off our list. We saw potential in you. Some potential. Even though they did call me a third time, like I said, it was more recent. But I bit their head off, basically, because I cannot, work with a scammer publisher like them. Oh, I forgot my under eyes. And I felt better that I haven't even gotten a call from them again. But any publisher out there, do not call me ever if you find my number, because I'm not leaving my publisher. So now, months later, I released Rose Thorns of Love. This was around the 1st of February. And it's both ebook and, both an ebook and a paperback. And I was working on Love Found in Cinders to be recorded for Audible, because I found a way of getting my books recorded in audio. And this was also a little bit after my mom passed away, because I lost her due to health complications. Trust me, I'm still a little devastated since, but he knows I'm doing okay with the whole entire school situation, because I also found a better school and have been passing for the past year. So, yep. So, anyways, I got a call one day while I was at work, and they said they're from EC Publishing here in Florida. And I'm like, okay, didn't know we had a publisher in Florida. And her accent was pretty thick, too. And one thing I was not expecting was she had the air of MLM on her, because there's one thing I never thought is that some of these companies don't like taking the word no. And she said she had someone, like a scout, read my newest book, Rose Thorns of Love. And she went, and they gave me the whole spiel that they wanted to work with me. But they wanted to have my book at a book fair in London on a shelf. I'm like, really? And I asked a really good question. Which, a good thing is, ask your questions. I asked, is this going to cost me anything? And she didn't give me the pricing at all, because I knew that the flags were about to go up, and she wanted to send me the paperwork so I could take a look, and there is a small price. And I'm like, I'll take a look and think about it. I gave her my email, and apparently I think they sent it to the wrong email address, because I think they got a different spelling from the word writer, as in WRITER, because that's basically what I have as a particular email address. And I didn't get the paperwork at all. But during lunch, because this call was made before that, like with Writer's Branding, all 3 times, I believe. Yeah, it was all 3. No, wait. Third one was not. It was during the afternoon. But all 3, the call was made before lunch, so I decided to take a look at EC Publishing. And apparently, Writer Beware came up, because I looked at their posts about Stratton Press, and they had a whole entire series about looking out for scammers, and they talked about EC Publishing. And this was interesting, because they talked about how people got scammed for the same idea of the whole entire book fair thing, but they were being charged $400, which, okay, just for a small shelf spot, or a teeny tiny shelf spot. And usually, I found out, if you get sent to a reading, like a specific event, you don't have to, okay, let me back up. Normally, the company would not have you pay for it. As in, they're normally the ones who would pay for the spot. If you have like an agent or anything, you're pretty much doing what you need to do. Normally, you don't have to pay for a spot like that. Even though you may have to pay if you're an artist for Artist Alley, which I tried asking one of my Artist Alley friends, how much do you usually pay for a table? But I did see on one page that sells stuff that you could buy as marketing material for book fairs, and they are pretty low for what you can get. Like a foldable table that you can carry with you for like $100, $200. And like, wait, what? And they were charging me $400. They were going to charge me about $400 if I was going to go with them. Apparently, I did not get the paperwork, but I did do my homework on them. And next day, they call again, and they ask, did you get our paperwork? And I told them, no, I didn't get any paperwork at all, but I did look you guys up on the internet. And she started to be like, huh? Like, over dramatics. Over dramatic acting, like, you know, being like flustered, so-called flustered. And I'm like, okay, I never got this before from anybody. And I told her, well, I'm not interested in any of your stuff because I could just get stuff that's a little bit cheaper. And she's like, marketing isn't always for free. And I know it's not always for free, because I could just get business cards for like $30 with my book information on it, which I did in the past. I got them at Staples easily. Heck, I even asked one of my author buddies for information about bookmarks, and I'm thinking of getting those as new marketing material. I mean, you could just get marketing material anywhere for like half the price, like less than half the price that they expect you to charge. And she was like, giving me all these over dramatics throughout the entire time. I'm like, and then I kind of cussed at them. I know it's not professional, and she did the same thing back. I did kind of wrote to them saying, hey, the reason why I'm not going with you guys anymore, and please don't contact me anymore, is because I found marketing material that cost way less than what you would offer for me, and I don't want to work with you. And apparently they tried calling me again, but I just ignored the call and blocked the number. And apparently on their Facebook page, they don't give any much information, except they were at a particular place to promote different authors. And I saw the page, the pictures on their their comment board with people smiling and everything at like New York and other places, but I kind of feel like I don't think that's real, in my opinion. I'm using the CoverGirl translucent, and the foundation that I was using was the NYX Blur Tint foundation, the newest one that they released. I always forget the name off the top of my head, and the concealer that I was using was the Fenty concealer. And now I am powdering my face with this translucent powder, which I've been liking. But anyways, so they did try calling me, but I did block their number because I didn't want to be in contact with them, especially when they sounded so over dramatic when I said no. I mean, why are you acting like that towards somebody who doesn't like what you're offering? And if they hear no, just hang up. I mean, really. And at that time, this was like a week or two after I lost my mom. And I was completely grieving. I was still kind of grieving at this point, and I was like, I'm getting sick of this. And the final straw was Quipper Prince, which they did call me, and I just let them talk for a bit and then hung up because I could not do it. I was completely and utterly tired of these scammers trying to get my books, thinking I'm going to fall for their tricks. And I found out that Quipper Prince didn't really have much information to them. Like, they only had tabs for the kind of publishing services, but they don't really give you much info. And I knew that if they're not going to give you the info that you need, just don't work with them. And I'm not sure if they got listed, but I emailed Writer Beware to let them know that these guys exist and wanted to work with me. And I even said in my post about both EC and Quipper that I was already sick of this at this point because I was like tired. I've been going through an emotional roller coaster by this point. I was completely sick of all these scammers coming after me. And when I got the call again from Writers Branding again, they were using a number that was completely different and used by a lot of scammers too. I'm going to be using the L'Oreal 24-hour infallible blush. I was looking for this blush all over the place in town, and nobody had it. And I had to get it online through Ulta. And I got in the color Legendary Berry. I like the names of these. Yes, it costs like $15 for the blush, but a lot of these makeup companies are starting to go up in price. But anyways, back to the story. I was completely sick of it. And knowing that they hate it when you look them up on the internet, I was like, they know we're not stupid, right? Thinking that we would fall for their tricks, and I was not falling for their tricks at all, because I did not want to be scammed like I was years ago by losing my bank account. Okay, there's my highlighter. The one that I'm using is this Too Faced Jewel one. I was going to use a different one, but I was decluttering my perfumes and found it. Some people said they didn't get much product off of this one, but I was lucky enough to get product off of this one. So I got this through BoxyCharm a long time ago. I no longer have any of my box subscriptions, even though I did go back to Allure for a little bit, but I'm going through a small situation. I'm trying to get that fixed. So I had to cancel for a bit, but I did keep Scentbird and just downgrade to one perfume. But still, I was completely fed up by that point, and I kind of felt like, yes, I did some things that were unprofessional to get them off my tail, but the only way of telling them, hey, leave me alone is by yelling at them usually. I know that's unprofessional, but it feels like they don't get the idea that hardly any of us is stupid to fall for something that they think they could just market off of you. I'm not that type of person. And I'm not that desperate to fall for, what they think is going to be a completely perfect thing. And after going through their spiel, I'm hoping I never get contacted by another scammer publisher, which I'm going to include a list down below. So if any of you want to become an author at any point in time, please be careful and do your research. I'm using my Smashbox setting spray. I'm so glad I finally found this. Let me fan it. But still, please keep your guard up if you get contacted by these people, and please research into it, because I don't want you to go through what I went through, and I don't want you to lose what you built up or even wrote for the longest time, be swept aside and have your money taken. It's like I said with MLMs, they kind of have that same attitude, especially if you researched into them. And especially with writers branding, they kind of completely snapped at me for looking them up. And yes, Stratton, Writers Branding, EC Publishing are on this list. So you get to see the entire list. And you'll see who is what and where. And please keep your guard up, like I said, when you're publishing your work out there. Because it's terrible to hear that people got scammed, especially the ones who were scammed by, what was it? By Stratton Press. Let's see, what lip do I want to use? Oh, I'll use this one. But I got please keep your guard up. And I'm also going to link down below my Amazon pages for my books, so you could purchase them in either format that you want. Also, if you don't have an Audible account, you can get the audiobook on iTunes if you have an iPhone, or if you have iTunes on your computer. You could download the books that way in audio. What else? And if you know someone who has a print disability, you could also go to bookshare.org and download my books that way, which you have many options to choose from. And please support an awesome writer, which I worked hard on these books, especially Rose Thorns of Love. It took like a few tries to get the story underway. Same with the next one, A Lovely Sleep. That also took some trial and error. Also, I'm going to be linking my Patreon page. Yes, I have a Patreon for my writing as well, because even though the Nerdy Chic Universe one did not get promoted as much. Doesn't mean I can't start from scratch, because someone suggested why not try out Patreon to try to get your books sold. And it's like only $5 a month to join the Patreon. I'm going to be adding a tier where you could take a look at the first 10 chapters of my next book, because I kind of may need some feedback on try to edit some of the stuff if I need to. So yeah, join the Patreon. Also buy my other books if you can. So please support me in any way. I'm not sure. I'm thinking of probably maybe do a video about updates or anything else. So I would say just follow us on Twitter, and also make sure you're going to the website nerdychicuniverse.com. Spelled the same here, but with the .com at the end. And until next time, stay beautiful.